Hello, everybody. Welcome to sparklive, where we talk about marketing, and more marketing. That's what we're going to talk about again today. So, our topic today is enough with reviews already. I mean, we talk about this all the time. And, guys, yes, we're going to talk about it again. So here we go, Carter. Why do we keep talking about these reviews when the latest that I've heard is, there used to be about 92% of everybody that saw reviews wanted to actually, look at those reviews like it was a trusted friend or family member. And guess what? That's dropped all the way down to 80%.
It was like 9 points or something from its high back in 2014, I think was what it was. Isn't that
Actually,
right?
about 2017.
2017, okay.
Yeah, but it's slowly kind of dropping back a little bit. But still, 80% of people look at that and say, hey, they're still looking at those reviews like they're a trusted friend or family member.
Well,
so
yeah. Two things there real quick, just because you brought the study up. The first two reactions I had, and this is just like, maybe I'm a jaded marketer. I've been doing this a while, but, and also, me, I mean, I have this, I tell people I'm fascinated by neuroscience, and I tell people if I could be like, if they'd let you be a neurosurgeon as a hobby, I would totally sign up because I just think it's that cool, but so the two things that came to my mind in reading that report and that study was, first of all, 9 points is significant, but it just means that people have changed their answer. And their answer and their behavior might be two entirely different things. In other words, I suspect, based on what I know about marketing and neurology, that people's behavior is exactly the same. We are influenced by what we read. We're influenced by the words other people use to describe a service. And when we're considering our options, when we're considering a purchase or considering a service, we're going to read other people's words and be influenced by those regardless of what we say, right? Yeah. How many people pretend that they don't care about what their spouse said about what they wore to dinner the other night, when the truth is they care a lot. That's why they said they didn't care, right? Yeah. So we know that what people say oftentimes isn't the real reality. And because we know that the brain is what the brain is and the brain works the way the brain works,
that's it.
You can't turn off the influence of reviews. They just can't. So it's still crucial to get those reviews and have them on your website. And not on your website, but like on your business, on your Google My Business profile and your Facebook profile and all the different places, Yelp, etc., because people still encounter them. And for every person that encounters them, they're going to be influenced by what's there, regardless of what they say in some marketer's survey.
No, and I agree with that. But you know what was what impacted me more about that study than anything else was not necessarily that piece, though that was like that they thought was the big piece. But to me, it's the fact that fewer and fewer people are leaving those mid reviews. They're either leaving you 1 star or they're leaving you 5 stars. The in-betweens are the ones that are kind of going away.
So
to me, that was fascinating.
It is fascinating. And in some respects, I think it's a reflection of what's going on in the larger social sort of sphere in our world right now, which is a polarization effect that we see everywhere, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, people, it doesn't matter what we're talking about. If we're talking about politics, if we're talking about religion, if we're talking about your favorite potato chips, people don't just have, oh, well, no, I like Lay's potato chips, but I really prefer Doritos. They don't talk like that. It's like, Lay's potato chips suck, and Doritos, and if you don't believe in Doritos, man, I don't even want to be your friend. So it's this kind of energy that's just, so it doesn't surprise me in a survey like this that we would see polarized reviews, right? It's either 5 stars or no stars, 5 stars or 1 star.
Exactly. I want to pause a minute. So, hey, Justin, see you. Glad to see you here. Derek, man, you guys show up every week. Thanks so much for being here. We so appreciate that you're here. And we're going to get on with this title because even though this whole report just came out, we wanted to touch on those two things because honestly, I don't think they impact one bit what we need to really be concentrating on when it comes to reviews. So the very first thing we're going to talk about is why we keep talking about them. I mean, that sounds crazy because I remember going to Branson, Missouri at a big chimney conference, and everybody was talking about this new thing called Google Reviews. And there was a guy by the name of John with Saver Systems there telling everybody they needed to jump on the board. He had a cheat sheet. He had all these things. And when we heard that, we were like, oh, this guy is really on it. This is fantastic because this is exactly what everybody ought to be doing, you know? And guess what? That was what, 2012? We're in 2021, and I would tell everybody that's exactly what you need to be doing. I mean, it's just so we keep talking about because it still impacts your business so much more than most business owners really think it does. So it's just crazy how much it does that.
So the other reason that we keep talking about it is because in the world of marketing, when you play in the world that Google and Facebook and Angie's List and Yelp, I mean, right? We play on their playgrounds, and they control those playgrounds. And sometimes it works to our advantage, and other times it doesn't. But the fact is that you don't really control those playgrounds. What you do control, though, is the quality of your service and the good reviews that you can get as a result of that service. So that's why we talk about reviews, is because you have some influence there. You can do things that create positive reviews, and you can do things to get positive reviews online so that more people encounter them and are influenced by them. So, for a marketer, that's a win. Anything we can control, anything we have influence over, because I mean, Google doesn't take my call directly. Now, I mean, we have, as a marketing company, we have, probably more connection than most, but I can't call up, Facebook and say, hey, Mark, I got a problem with the way you're doing stuff, man. I really wish it would work this way. My clients would appreciate it. Thanks. I expect to have that done by, next business day. So when we don't have influence in those other things, we look to the things that we can influence, and reviews are just always going to be one of those things.
And one of the other things about reviews that I think we miss sometimes, and we talked a little bit about this in the last, couple of lives, but it's a place where you can go and find out what your customer really thinks about you. I mean, what intel that you can get by just mining through those reviews is fantastic. And I want to welcome Mark Stoner here, James Paul, hello, Kathy Ray, so glad to see you on this. I think it's awesome. Chuck Roydhouse, thank you, sir, for showing up. And I want to just say, Julian Stewart said free advertising. That's why we talk about them. And boy, that is true. I saw an illustration just recently. It was fantastic about how many people are actually, they find you, they go to your reviews, and when they look at your reviews, right below it, Google shows them other people's reviews. And they change. They move from finding that listing in Google, and then they pick somebody else. So, guys, reviews are important, but you need to have really good reviews because people are looking at them. They're looking at your reviews. So that's really great. So we're going to go to the next thing. Why and how to respond to all these reviews, Carter?
So let's deal with the question of why first. Like, why respond to the reviews? People want to know that they're going to work with a company that's responsive. No matter what, whether it's good or bad, they want to know that they're working with a company that understands what good communication looks and sounds like. So a response to a review is like an audition for a new customer. You have a chance to demonstrate to that person, that prospect, that lead that's looking at that review. You have a chance to demonstrate to them how you handle stuff, right? When things are good and when things go bad. So that's the why we respond. Probably the most compelling reason. I think there's other reasons too, but that's probably the most compelling one.
Well, I think the other reason that we need to respond, and this is what I see a lot of times, is we're really good about responding to the negative because we see the negative and we go, oh my God, I got to get on that. And I've got to, mitigate this and figure it out and work it out and all that, which is commendable and that's great. But one of the things that people really miss is the responses to those positive reviews. So if you can think a little bit about how much appreciation goes. In other words, when you appreciate somebody, those words go a long way in a relationship. When you're saying, thank you so much for leaving a review. Thank you so much. We really enjoyed being there. We really enjoyed servicing, the fireplace, the dryer, whatever it is, HVAC, whatever you're doing. We are so grateful for you, our client. That goes a long ways when people are reading through those reviews to find out that not only are you doing a great job of mitigating and working with negative or difficult situations or issues, but you also have a great deal of appreciation for the people that you work with, that you work for. And I think that goes a long, long way. And we miss that. We really do. We just miss it. So, don't forget that. And on the house side,
well, before you get to that, and
okay.
and I want to get there, but let's just ask people that are watching right now.
Sure.
Have there ever been times when you have responded to a review and then a customer calls to schedule an appointment and they mention, oh, I saw that review and that negative review, and that guy was a total loser, man. I thought you handled that situation great or whatever. It may come up, while you're there in a customer's home and they mention it. I'm just curious, have any of you heard from other customers about how you handled a review response online? Because we hear that this happens a lot. So if that's you, just weigh in the comments and let people know. You don't have to tell the whole story, but just weigh in and say, yes, that's happened to me. People talk about my review responses. Yep. So Carmen is saying, absolutely. Those are my favorites. Derek says yes many times. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's very awesome. So on the how deal, the one thing that I tell people that they need to breathe, especially if it's negative. You got to slow down. You got to breathe. Then you got to step back. This is the hardest thing, and it's hard for us too. When we have something that comes in that's negative, it's like, oh my gosh, the house is on fire, and you want to get it fixed. But sometimes you gotta bring it down, the temperature down, to where you can actually deal with the situation at hand. Find out what happened. It's not always about, a service that you did. It may be a tech that works for you or somebody else. And you really do have to get to the bottom of what's going on, and then you address it that way. So I think that's the biggest thing that I see is people just get so bent and so worked up. It's hard for them to work through the problem.
And I think it's easy to understand, don't you? You're a business owner and, you eat, sleep, and breathe this. You're proud of the business that you're creating. And to have somebody come along and criticize it, not just criticize it, but like publicly criticize it for all, manner of people to come and see is a really difficult ego moment. It's hard to like push that down and then think about the response, without the passion and the energy of it at that moment. But that's absolutely what's needed.
Yeah.
Don't respond until you can respond without the emotion rising up in your throat and you can feel your blood pressure jump, 10 points.
The other thing I would tell you on the how is write it out and then sit on it. Go to sleep, get up the next morning, look at it again if it's just you, or sometimes if you've got somebody else in the office. There are times that we will run it by someone else in our office and say, hey, does this look right? Is this the tone, the whole thing, so that we've got another set of eyes on there. So I think that's important. So Carter, you asked the question. We've got some responses. You want to look at some of the stuff that's come through?
Absolutely. Derek said usually just the ones that crack jokes are the ones he hears about or people comment on. Jokes are great, man. They diffuse bad situations. They help everybody calm down a little bit. Ultimately, I would say this, and we may talk about this a little bit later. If you're responding to a negative review, oftentimes it's best not to crack jokes right then. Maybe to just like bring people offline, right? Say, I'm so sorry that you've had this experience. I want to learn more about it. I'm the business owner and I need to know more about this. Would you be willing to talk to me offline? Here's my personal number or something to like take it away, take it off. That provides a good response, but it gets them off. But I love it. The jokes, people appreciate a good joke usually. Chuck says yes. James Paul says the customer said that the review response that the customer sounded like a loon, complete loon. I think that's great. Justin said, I had a guy give us a bad review because, quote, we didn't answer the phone. We left a comment back, and then he scheduled a very profitable job. Yeah, we see that. Jillian pretty much says the same thing. We got a $7,000 job for our response on a bad review. But she's also admitting that there's still some bad reviews out there that haven't been responded to. Nobody bats 100, but it's a good goal to pick a time every week or every day or every other day or what on a schedule where you go, you read your reviews, you see what they say, and just respond to all of them, good and bad.
So here's a question I get a lot. So how many reviews do I actually need? So this is going to be an interesting thing because it's all kind of relative to the industry that you're in, the area that you're in. I just did a playbook for a HVAC company down in Florida. They had 7,900 reviews.
Wow.
Okay, an average of 4.7 with 7,900. I had to go back and look again. It's the highest I've ever seen. I've seen 1,200. I think I saw 4,200 at one time. But this is the highest I've ever seen. And they had a lousy website. The playbook was just written all over it. Bless their hearts. It was the website I tore up. But let me tell you, on their reviews all the way across, they had like 400 and some odd Yelp reviews in the high fours. Facebook was killing it on Facebook. And he had a big fleet. So my point is, how many reviews do you need? Well, what's your competition? You got to keep up with that. You got to know the people around you, how many they're doing. And so what I would say is get on top of that, because now people are looking at reviews very specifically. So if you know that they're looking at reviews and you know that that's what they're gonna key on, then you've got to put some effort toward that. So yeah. So how many do you need? A bunch.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But a good rule of thumb, recent reviews is what you need more than like quantity. You need, in other words, I'm saying if you're doing enough volume as a business to get 7,900 reviews, good on you, right? And get as many as you can. If you're a much smaller operation, there's no way you're going to get 7,900 reviews. You may not see 7,900 people in the next 3 years, but you can get good reviews and get as many as you can. But I think the most important thing to realize is that along with the number of reviews, people are looking at the quality of the reviews and also the recency of the reviews. People want to know, how long ago was this review? The last review that was left, if it was 2 years ago, that may indicate a problem, right? If it's 2 weeks ago, then cool, they're still doing good work. That's within a reasonable time frame for me to think that if I hire them, I'm going to have a good experience too. So recent reviews, make sure that as you go, it's an ongoing process. You create a system that is an ongoing procedure for getting more and more reviews on a consistent basis. That way you've always got a few in the past 1 or 2 weeks that people will see when they come look at your reviews.
So I got a couple of questions here. Carmen is, I'm guilty of only responding to bad reviews. If I start responding to the good ones, how far back should I go to catch up on responding to our older reviews? I tell you what I would do, Carmen. I wouldn't go back maybe further than 6 weeks, honestly. And then I would concentrate on the ones going forward, especially, and you can answer Google, Facebook, Yelp. Those are really your top three. And that leads us into the Jacob Cromwell question about Yelp. This is always fun. How can one generate good and published Yelp reviews? I know it's an impossible algorithm, but there's got to be a good strategy. I know of two companies on the West Coast. Yelp is really, really big on the West Coast. There's two companies on the West Coast that I know about that they have a very targeted Yelp strategy. So in Yelp, there's a couple of things you have to know. Is it's kind of like Google. Google has reviewers, and there are levels of reviewers. You can get to like a Google 10th level of a reviewer. It's the same deal as Yelp. They've kind of taken the Yelp model and done that over in Google. So they're called Yelpers. So if you look and you find people that have had X amount of reviews, and those are really the people that you want, the ones that give a lot of reviews in Yelp. So here's what these companies have done. It's a little on the not, maybe not so savory deal, but it seems to work. They get people that are friends and family to go in and start reviewing a whole bunch of people in there. And so that when they get their yearly service, they go in, they've got their status up. And so what you'll find is the higher your status of reviewer on Yelp, the more it's going to count. So if you've got people that that have a Yelp accounts, that review on Yelp that specifically, talk to them. And and it's even worth, I think, going to giving them a break on the work that you do, if they'll go in and help you on the Yelp review. But it's got to be somebody that is trustworthy and that and that kind of thing.
That doesn't work for Yelp.
Yes, it doesn't work for Yelp. I think that's hopefully that goes unsaid.
So Chuck is asking, our clients have been using Facebook and Google for reviews and not Yelp. Therefore, we don't have very recent reviews on Yelp. Is that an issue? First, a couple of things come to mind there. Yelp is very regional. So in other words, it has a lot of influence in certain markets and barely any influence in other markets. So if you're doing a good job of asking, and I know, Chuck, you are, of asking customers when they call, where did you hear about us? If you're hearing Yelp a lot as an answer, then you need to go get more Yelp reviews. You need to throw that in the mix of places you try to get good reviews. If you barely ever hear Yelp as the place and everybody finds you on Facebook and Google, then you know that your market probably doesn't rely much on Yelp, and maybe you can focus on that one less. It's still a good idea to spread them around. You're missing opportunities if you don't have a lot, good reviews on every one of the places in a market. But as far as like a focus goes, I don't know that I want to focus a whole lot on the places that don't bring me a lot of good business.
And I'll tell you, the regions that really need to be in Yelp are almost all West Coast. That's where they originated, that's where they started, and that's where they're bigger. There are pockets around the United States that you just find that pocket. If you're in one of those pockets, like Carter said, yep, you need to do that. But if you're not in one of those pockets, have it as an option, but you don't have a whole lot of people going there.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of traffic. We don't see a lot of traffic from Yelp. Not the vast majority of our clients, we just don't see it.
And if you are in a market where Yelp is predominant, then, I'm sorry and good luck, because we hate them. I mean, I don't care much about them as in terms of their practices around reviews. I'll say it that way. I have a lot of distaste for them.
What about Apple Maps? Right now, it's great to have your listing on Apple Maps. Most people use Google. It's just crazy. I mean, Google really is still the dominant map search. So, yeah, I would love to see somebody come up and really compete with Google, and I'm hoping that Apple will do it in the future, but it's not there yet. And that's one of the things that we really kind of key on. We want to make sure that we stay on top of that and know when they're making the moves. But right now, there's just nobody in the search space, in the map space, in that's even. I mean, they're just, yeah, they're way back, way back. So let's talk about having a system, Carter.
Yeah.
You're a systems guy, so I'm going to let you answer that one.
Well, and it's appropriate to talk about it in the context of this question, like how many reviews do I actually need? You need as many as a good system implemented in your business and followed, as a procedure, a regular procedure in your business, as many as that system will bring you, right? So, if you are doing a good job of asking for reviews and you have a system that makes sure that every person in your business is prepping customers for the idea that this transaction with you is not over until we earn the right to get a positive review from you. So the CSRs that answer your phone should be part of that system. They should be prepped. The script that they use, the language that they use to describe to a customer the process of working with you, right? We're going to get you scheduled today. When the day comes, we're going to send you a confirmation. We're going to come out. We're going to do the job. And then after it's over, we're going to review that with you. And if you feel like we've done a good job, we're going to ask you if we could send you a link to be able to give us that feedback and leave us a review. So, you're prepping them, right? You always want to, in good communication, world-class communication, it's 3 stages, right? Tell them what you're going to do, tell them what you're doing, and then tell them what you just did, right? So that's the prep. Tell them what you're going to do. The CSR handles that part. When the technician shows up, the technician is going to explain what the work is that they're doing. And then when they're doing exactly what the CSR said that they would do, you're winning points. You're psychologically you're fulfilling every requirement that they expected of you when you showed up. And then at the end of that, when you do follow up and you present a review link to them, then in their minds, this is all part of a process. It's all part of that journey that I've been on with this business. And they have already told me that their expectation is that this service call isn't over or the service transaction isn't over until I've left a review. So now it's my turn and I got to finish this up. I got to do my part. So when you set those expectations and do that, you're creating a really good system. And that's why it's important. Good things can sometimes randomly happen in life. Reviews are not one of those things. Good reviews happen when you plan and build a system that gets good reviews.
And we've seen guys that are single operators that don't have any kind of technology in place whatsoever. They don't use emails. They don't do anything. And they kill it in reviews just because of the way they approach it. So I think as you get larger, it actually gets a little bit harder because you don't have that control. I think the single operator, because they're the ones that are in there, they're talking to the client, they're the owner, they kind of have the whole thing. And so they sit down and show them, where to write the review, almost write it for them sometimes. It's really interesting to kind of hear how they do some of this. But the point is, the bigger you grow, then you have to duplicate that some way, shape, or form. And that's when you get into some other types of systems of reviews that you may not, get the really big ones, or I don't say big reviews, but you may not get them all. But at least you can kind of duplicate that process to a certain degree and keep your company with SOPs around those reviews. I think that's really important.
Getting buy-in from, you don't think about this as part of a system, right? But any system is only as good as the people who implement it, who are following it, and who are doing who are the cogs in that wheel, right, or in that system. So getting buy-in from your employees at every level, having them understand and impressing upon them the importance of reviews in your business. Guys, this is how we keep trucks rolling. Guys, this is how we find our best customers, the ones that aren't a hassle for you to serve, right? Nobody wants to serve the bottom of the barrel customers. And guess what? When we have great reviews, we attract better customers, and they're easier to serve, and they're happier about the work that gets done before we ever get the work done. because they have an expectation that we're going to do a good job for them. And it just makes everything easier when we have good reviews. And you have the ability to help us get those. So we prep on the phone calls. We talk about them when we get to the customer's house. We always send the follow-up after the job to give them a chance to go and leave that review that we told them at the very start of this transaction that it was going to happen. So getting that buy-in, getting them agreeing that, yes, this is important, that's more culture than it is like incentivizing it. I mean, and I'm not saying don't incentivize it. I mean, if you can spiff a guy, $5 every time he gets a good review from a customer that he served, I'm not saying don't. What I am saying is that it's more important to get them acculturated to the idea that reviews are life and death in our business, and that those who in our culture and in our business, those employees who are helping us get more reviews are making sure for the rest of us that we have a strong business that can withstand anything that comes at it. So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about, inspiring your people to be on board with the idea that I have a role to play in getting good reviews.
That is awesome. And now we're going to talk about how in the world do we use those reviews to our advantage. We've talked a little bit about some of this, that you answer every review. That answer really isn't for you, and a lot of times it's not even for the person that left the review. Remember, how you answer a review is really for potential clients that are reading it after the fact. Sometimes if you can separate those things out, it really makes a huge difference on how you're going to answer that. And it also makes it easier to step back and not take things so personally, because now you're going to answer it so that the next person that comes along and reads that review has a positive outlook on you and your company. That's really what it's about. So you also want to really study and learn from them. We have a lot of people that ask about how do we get intel? Can we do surveys? Can we do this? And there's a lot of things to do, but I'm telling you, the easiest way to get intel on your business is go through and find out what people say about you. Period. Easy, easy, easy. If you haven't done that, it is a great exercise to go back and go through your reviews. You'll find out what you're doing good. You'll find out where things break down. You'll find out where you can get better, even though it's okay. You're going to find things that people think that something's okay, and you go, yeah, that's not okay. We can do better than that. So there's so many things that you can learn from that. So many things. And then the last thing I want to talk about this particular subject is link those reviews, okay? Use them in social. Use them on your website. Use them in emails. If you have a signature email and you've got a really stellar review, put it in your signature of your email that every customer gets. Put them on your invoices. Put them on the places that people will see them. Outside, when they're not even looking for reviews, you want to put them in places anywhere and everywhere that your customers and potential customers can see.
We've seen them baked into truck wrap designs and brochures and business cards and yard signs. And I mean, pretty much anywhere that there's any physical space, if you've got a few inches to throw a review that, a short review that's just a stellar one, be proud of what your customers think of you. Let them toot your horn instead of you always claiming to be the best, right? Everybody claims to be the best service that does XYZ in this area. But when your customers are saying it, it means more. So put it everywhere. Use them, link to them and use them.
And I'd like to know, as we continue on, and if you've had a situation where you've gone back or looked at a review and actually learned something, I'd like to know what you've learned from some of the reviews that you've seen, just in the past, year or two. Has there been like an epiphany that has happened when you've read a review? I would really like to know that if any of you have ever had that experience. And we're going to go on to how to ask for and get them. So here's the thing, guys. The very first thing I tell everybody is you have to ask. So I am going to ask every single one of y'all that has not left a review for Spark Marketer to do so in the next week. I just asked. See, I'm not responsible for whether you do it or not. I'm just responsible for asking. But I know it starts with me asking y'all to do that. If I don't ask, I know 100% that none of you will do it. But if I ask you, and there are some people on here that have left us reviews, but if I ask you to do that, then I've got a much better percentage that I'm going to get some reviews. So hopefully that makes sense, that you do have to ask. It will never work if you don't ask in some way, shape, or form. It can be verbally, it can be by email, it can be by text, video, on social, whatever, but you do have to ask. The rest is just the mechanics.
Yeah. So
starts with asking.
Yeah, and maybe even it starts with telling people you're going to ask, and then asking, right? Like, I mean, you're prepping them for the ask, because that warms them up. It's like preheating the oven. It gets things to the right temperature so that they have an expectation that the ask is coming, and when it comes, I'm going to say yes, and then I'm going to actually do it, right? So that pre-commitment primes people for the commitment. So that's important, and the mechanics of that are like Taylor was saying. It's just mechanics. Once you've asked, then from there it's the process of getting them is reminding people that you'd like them to leave a review. Asking more than once is sometimes very appropriate. So, but shortening the distance too. That's one of the things that I think we could talk about. That's not in the notes exactly, but part of that system or part of that process is shortening the distance or the time between the ask and when they actually leave the review. If we're talking, I mean, we've seen charts in our own measurements with the tools that we've developed for helping our clients get more good reviews and get traction there. We've charted it, and it really is a cliff. I mean, from the moment you ask for a review and I drive away, the amount of the time that it takes for once the technician leaves and the email arrives in their inbox with the link for the review. I mean, every minute that goes by between when you ask them and when that inbox or that email shows up in their inbox, you're just losing opportunity, because life happens, right? They don't sit there and go into some kind of, biological stasis and nothing's happening in their life until they get that email, and then they're going to leave an email or leave a review like they told you they would. No, life happens. They've got a dog that just peed on the carpet, and a kid they have to pick up at 3:30 because their husband had a business meeting and can't get to daycare to do it, like they had agreed upon at breakfast. So, right, I mean, life's going on. And so when the review request comes in, the amount of time that has transpired usually means they're going to look at that email and go, yeah, I'm going to get to that later. I told them I would, but I've got other things going on now. So that's why we found in our testing that any system that when you ask for the review and then you can right then get them a link on their phone where they can click that link, and with you right there showing them how to do it. Like, okay, it sounded like your phone just went off. You want to check? Oh yeah, that's our email. Good. So you see right there that Google link. Just go ahead and click that, and it'll open you up. Now you got to scroll down a little bit until you get, okay, right there. You see where the stars are? Okay, so you can leave us the stars and then, give us the review or whatever. And I'm not going to tell you what to say. I mean, that's private. That's for you. But I just wanted to show you where to do that. And so thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and pack up the truck now. I'll check in with you one last time before we drive away. But that's so, you're just prepping them. You're leading them right up to the point to where now there's no time that elapses. They're right there. And so now the easiest path of the path of least resistance is what? It's not to delay. It's to just get this done, right? I'm right here in front of the space. Later, I'm going to be distracted. So let me just knock this out right now. That's how you get good reviews.
It's kind of like right now we're on Facebook. Most of you guys are here on Facebook, and there's one or two on YouTube. There's a thumbs up that if you hadn't clicked the thumbs up, I mean, you can do that like right now. That's exactly what we're talking about, from right here to do that. So how many of y'all right now can just go click that thumbs up and give us a thumbs up? Just like this particular live. It's really the same kind of a thing. Now, if you don't do it, you may hurt my feelings, guys. So, that's the guilt part, when you can say, this really does help and this is another thing you can say. You can tell people legitimately, this helps people in your community know that we are a valuable service and that we do good service. That is really, really important. And I think there's too few companies that ask for that reason. But the reality is that really is the reason. I mean, it really is about doing good work and good service in your community. Very, very important with that. So don't forget about that. I think that's great. And getting those employees involved is the other thing. I don't think you can talk about this too much with employees. I think it is something that has to be front and center a lot. I mean, there just really is a lot.
In terms of like making reviews part of your culture, I mean, culture is what you celebrate, right? Culture becomes the things that you acknowledge, give attention to, and celebrate. So if you're celebrating reviews every time you have your stand-up meeting, hey, just wanted to shout out John. John, you've been with us just 2 months, but you're already getting great reviews. This one just came in last night from the customer Carol that you served the other day. Here's what she said. John, I'm so glad to hear that. And thank you so much for asking her for that review. That really means a lot to our business and it helps us grow. So you're doing a great job. Thanks, everyone. And I mean, that kind of thing becomes part of your culture when you recognize it, acknowledge it, celebrate it. So yeah, getting your employees involved that way.
So Carmen's asked a question: is there an industry average or percentage of the percentage of customers that will leave a review, and if you have a process system in place for them to do so? So Carmen, I will tell you, we've had people that have said to us, I don't need to ask for reviews. I am so good, they will love me and just leave them. And they don't get very many reviews. They may be great technicians. They may be fantastic. But then they come back a year later and say, man, I guess I need to figure out what I need to do about getting reviews. Here's what I will tell you. Depending on your size, there are things that you can do. Every size business can do and put a system in place. We work with probably 3 different systems right now, and they're different for different people and different size businesses. So it's hard for me to tell you, what would work for you because I don't know enough about your business, but I'm happy to have that conversation if you want to contact me or Carter. My email is taylor@sparkmarketer.com. Carter is carter@sparkmarketer.com. And we're happy to go through the systems. Some of them we built internally. We have others that we contract with outside. So, it's just, our job is to help you market. So whatever system that you feel will work best with your company overall, because they're all a little bit different, we can help you put that in place and help you do that. But percentage wise, I will just tell you, percentages go up when you put a system in place.
Yeah, I would say we used to think that there might be a number that we could put to it, like, a target that you should shoot for. And it really doesn't. I'll just say this. We've not seen any kind of standard. There are people that have amazing reviews online that get them regularly, who tell us that they don't have a system in place. But when you delve into that a little bit more, you find out that they have a culture that's built around employees and technicians that have an expectation that reviews are just something we should be doing and we need more of them. And so we're doing it, right? So there's like an unspoken system. It exists, but it's not well described, like in an SOP document or something like that. So you just, Taylor's right. It's going to work better if you have a system and you tweak that system and you're constantly looking for better ways to make that system, maximize the return for the effort.
So guys, do y'all have any additional questions or comments around reviews or things that you've thought about that you want to just kind of put in? If not, then I'm going to wrap this up and just remind everybody that we do have a playbook, and I have been doing quite a few of these lately. If you have anyone in your area that is not in your industry, but complains about their website or doesn't know if their website's working, if things aren't working well, if you yourself aren't sure, go over to sparkmarketer.com/playbook, fill out that form, and I'm happy to do. And it's almost an overwhelming amount of information that we're going to give you. So I'll warn you ahead of time, but it's all really good information. If you are a current client, please don't sign up. You should have already got your playbook. So if you haven't, Taylor at sparkmarketer.com. Let me know. We'll make sure that you get yours. And you should have gotten it both in email and in the mail. So that's the best way I know for you to get those playbooks. And what is next week's subject? I don't even know.
Well, we're talking about some of the mistakes that you cannot afford to make when it comes to your website. I think it's specifically around your web presence.
Web presence? Okay. Yeah. So, guys, look at your websites before next week. We will be back here next Thursday at 3:00 Central, and look forward to seeing everybody here. Thanks so much for being here. We really so appreciate your just comments and participation. Y'all have no idea. This has been great.
Thanks everyone.